What do we do? What do we do when the world seems full of fear and anxiety, division, and misinformation? How can we rise above all of this chaos? How can we find and remain rooted in a place of love when it feels like the entire world is pushing us deeper into anger? How can we think clearly and do what we feel in our hearts is right when so many contradictory forces compete to influence us? Now, I can't speak for any of you, but when the state of the world wears me down, when I feel like I'm burdened by worries and concerns that frankly far exceed my capacity to resolve, here's what I do. I think about how the average man produces between 2 and 4 million sperm per ejaculation. Strange as that may sound, this thought always brings me back to my center, to a place of acceptance, and more, to a place of gratitude. I know what you're thinking. Did I click on the wrong link? I thought this was supposed to be a Thanksgiving service. Don't worry, you are in the right place. Just keep this figure in mind, 2 and 4 million sperm. It'll come in handy a little bit later, I promise. Thanksgiving, a day reserved for giving thanks. The Super Bowl of gratitude. Giving thanks might seem like a simple deed, but it can be quite difficult to carry out, especially when we can't find reasons for which to be thankful. I know that when I focus on the big picture and spend too much time contemplating the state of the world, the pandemic, the plight of Indigenous people and other visible minorities, climate change, and so on, I don't find many reasons for which to be thankful. Yet, despite the doom and gloom that fills me when I focus on these particular aspects of the world, there's a part of me that knows that there's always something for which to be thankful, that it's only a matter of how and where I focus my attention that determines what I see and don't see. That's why I've had to develop some strategies over the years to reframe my surroundings and circumstances in such a way as to bring the blessings in my life to the forefront. Because as most of us know, and as many of us have already stated in this service, gratitude is a powerful grounding force. Whereas desire and fear are rooted in what is not, gratitude is firmly anchored to what is. At each moment, I'm faced with an ever-present choice. I can focus on the things I want but don't have, or on the things I have but don't want. And these, by the way, I suggest to you are one and the same. Or I can focus on the things I would want if I didn't already have them. The things I would want if I didn't already have them. As the Greek philosopher Epicurus advised his students, do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for. How's that for a clever bit of reframing? I can focus on my desire for things to be other than they are. How I wish this blasted pandemic would end. How I wish my kids didn't have to wear masks at school. How I wish we could all be congregating in person right now. Or I can focus on the way things are now and the blessings in my life. The challenge for me, of course, is that these blessings can be elusive, often taking a backseat to the seemingly more pressing fears and desires that are easily stoked by media, current events, personal and interpersonal drama, and so on. Why is it that danger and yearning take precedence over the abundant good that is already present in my life? Why is it that for many of us, myself included, pessimism comes naturally and automatically, while things like objectivity, acceptance, and gratitude are relatively difficult to bring forth? Now, as you can imagine, this is a question that I've sought to answer for many years, and I came to an unexpectedly simple answer quite recently, surprisingly straightforward. The reason most of us are natural pessimists is because of, well, survival. We've been conditioned over thousands and thousands of years to prioritize awareness of danger over awareness of opportunity, awareness of threat over awareness of blessing. In other words, fear over gratitude. Because for much of our history as a species, our very lives depended on this. The fact that you and I are here is proof that our ancestors, especially the ones that lived during our hunter-gatherer days, were hyper-vigilant. Had they lacked this trait, this penchant for fear, they would not have survived long enough to pass their genes down the long line of successors, leading to those of us gathered here today. Imagine that you're a hunter-gatherer living some 40,000 years ago. You wander through a forest and stumble into a clearing. Now, on the left side of the clearing, there's a lush berry bush full of ripe fruit. And then on the right side of the clearing, there's a saber-toothed tiger crouching low in the shadows, watching you with hungry eyes. Now, if you don't notice the berries, you might go hungry for a day, but you'll be fine in the long run. However, if you fail to notice the tiger, there will be no long run for you. You're done for. So as a result of this, we're naturally sensitive to the negative. And historically, this has served us very well. But now our hunter-gatherer days are firmly behind us. And yet we still carry that old programming within ourselves. We fixate on threats and dangers, whether they're real or perceived, at the expense of the blessings and gifts that surround us. And this, I suggest, is a heavy burden on our mental health. It is also the underlying cause of our current predicament, what I like to call the fear pandemic, which is, in my opinion, the source of the many superficial dangers we face on a global scale. From fear, we get anxiety, greed, anger, hatred, and all the other afflictive emotions that drive people to do cruel, foolish, and destructive things to each other, to other living beings, and to the planet in general. Really, truly is a fear pandemic that we're living through right now, my friends. But the good news is that the path from fear to freedom, despite being a narrow one, need not be difficult to walk, nor does the journey need to be lonely. We can make this journey together from fear to freedom. And today I'd like to propose that gratitude might just be the most powerful antidote for fear. Remember that fear and desire are closely related, being different ways to deny or resist what is, or what may possibly come to be. In some ways, I think that fear and desire are merely opposing sides of the same coin. In the shadow of every desire lies an unspoken fear. And if you pry into your fears, you may find that they are also motivated by desire. For example, one who desires fame fears obscurity. One who fears obscurity seeks fame to alleviate that fear. One who desires companionship fears loneliness, and one who fears loneliness seeks companionship to alleviate that fear. One who desires wealth fears lack and poverty, and, well, you get the picture. And so the way to conquer fear is with its true opposite, which is gratitude, which is rooted in affirming and celebrating the things that are, the way things are. You can't be grateful for something you don't have, right? So in this way, gratitude is an anchor to the present moment, a pathway to accepting things as they are and finding ways to improve or make the best of them if necessary. But oftentimes, when we turn with gratitude toward our own lives, we find that things are actually quite good as they are, and they don't really need that much improving. Now, surely everyone here has experienced gratitude before. Usually it happens when someone does something nice for us, or sometimes when good fortune spares us from disaster or tragedy. Like when you're merging into traffic, for example, and you're oblivious to the car in your blind spot. The other driver leans on the horn, you swerve out of the way and avoid an accident. That relief you feel is a form of gratitude. You might even say something like, "Thank God the other driver honked the horn, otherwise I would have crashed." What we're discussing today is how we can move beyond this kind of accidental gratitude that's dependent on factors that are beyond our control and learn to experience this feeling on demand. What I'm going to share with you is a couple of methods that, in my experience, work very well to cultivate gratitude actively and deliberately so that you don't have to depend on factors beyond your control to experience this powerful grounding emotion. So one of the methods that I want to share with you is inspired by a 12th century Christian mystic. Another method I learned from a Roman emperor. And the last one is an invention of my own. Now, all three of these practices are simple and, in my experience, effective methods for strengthening your gratitude muscle and building it up. But the best thing about them is that each one can be tailored to meet your individual needs. So let's start with the 12th century mystic, a fellow by the name of Meister Eckhart. The words that inspired this first exercise in gratitude are very, very simple. He said, "If your only prayer is thank you, it is enough." Way before the neuroscientists were figuring out the medical benefits and the strength and power of gratitude, this guy in the 12th century had it pretty much nailed down. If your only prayer is thank you, that's enough. Now, I'm aware of my audience. So if the word prayer is loaded with negative connotations for you, if you have, let's say, religious PTSD from your upbringing, for example, I encourage you to look through the word to its true meaning. You don't have to believe in a deity in order to pray. Prayer is no different than, let's say, reciting an affirmation or a mantra. And these things work to condition your unconscious mind. As you know, it is my firm belief that what we think over and over again becomes our reality. When our thinking changes, our world changes with it. And so prayer for me is just a way to reprogram your thinking and reorient yourself in different ways. So the exercise here is simple. Make a point of saying thank you as often as possible, out loud to other people, but also, and in my opinion, more importantly, inside yourself, even when there's nobody to thank. Enjoying a beautiful sunset by yourself? Thank you. Just emerged from the ocean after a refreshing swim? Thank you. Relaxing after a long day at the office? Thank you. Hugging your kids when they get home from school? Thank you. All of these things are gifts. The point is to take the time to recognize them as such and give thanks. Ralph Waldo Emerson, that wise, beautiful soul, describes this practice elegantly and even takes it one step further. He writes, "Cultivate the habit of being grateful for every good thing that comes to you and give thanks continuously. And because all things have contributed to your advancement, you should include all things in your gratitude." All things in your gratitude. Maybe we can call it radical gratitude, being thankful for the blessings as well as the challenges, for the simple reason that the challenges are themselves opportunities for education and personal growth. Indeed, all the challenges in your past were essential to your current state of being. Without them, you wouldn't be who you are today. And that, in my opinion, would be a shame. That's exercise number 1. Say thank you continuously. The second exercise comes to us by way of the last of the good Roman emperors, as he's called, Marcus Aurelius. In his private journals, Marcus coached himself in this way. He writes, "When you wake up in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Again, simple, direct, and to the point, just like Meister Eckhart. What I get out of this passage from Marcus Aurelius is twofold. Number 1, I should start each day by contemplating the things for which I am grateful. And number 2, these things don't need to be extravagant or massive, If we take Marcus's example, he's grateful for the privilege of being alive, the privilege of breathing, thinking, enjoying, and loving. Now, these things are so close to us, so imminent in our lives, that they can easily escape our notice. Yet to experience these simple things is indeed a precious privilege. Starting each morning in this manner, by mentally listing off some of the things for which you're grateful, sets the mental and emotional tone for the rest of the day. If you combine it with regular prayers of thanks, they're sure to cause a shift in your overall mood and mindset, building resilience in the face of adversity and unpleasantries of every sort. This is how we build up that gratitude muscle. This is how we strengthen it, by practicing gratitude as much as possible. Now, I will warn you, there is a side effect to doing this. One of the things that I've noticed in performing these 2 exercises on a daily basis for the last years is that my list and prayers become a bit repetitive. Like the things that I list off every morning, I find myself going over the same people and the same circumstances and the same things over and over again. And so in order to keep this process fresh and alive, I sometimes force myself to try and think outside of the box. I try to widen my circle of gratitude beyond the usual in order to encompass things I didn't notice before or think about. And this sort of exercise to widen my circle of gratitude has led me to some pretty mind-blowing realizations. Like, for instance, that bizarre factoid I shared with you earlier about semen. I know it's crude, I get it, but this thought that I shared with you at the very beginning about the number of sperm really does trigger the gratitude response in me every single time. Whenever I'm down, whenever things seem dark and gloomy, every single time I just have to think about that figure and I feel better immediately. And here's why. In my search for more novel sources of gratitude, I came to ponder the mathematics behind it all. Every single ejaculation, and by the way, I swear this is the last time I'm going to say that word today, contains between 2 and 4 million potential individuals like you and me. How about those odds that you should be sitting here listening to this today? 1 in 2 million? 1 in 4 million? Dang. It could have been any one of those other 4 million people, but it wasn't. It was you. It is you. Think about those odds for a moment. All those potential people, each one unique. Let it sink in. 1 in 4 million. But that's not all, folks. That's not all. Consider also that each of your parents had to overcome identical odds. Otherwise, if one or both had not been born, well, you wouldn't be here either. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm terrible at math, so I won't be dazzling you with the numbers involved. But if you keep working your way backward like this, generation by generation, those 1 in 4 million odds compound and grow exponentially. Keep working your way backwards through the whole sequence of human existence, and further still, through the countless chance events and encounters that prompted our ape-like ancestors to branch off in a new direction. You can keep going if you want, and as you go, the odds grow more and more astronomical, impossible to grasp with this limited mind of ours. It's almost like your presence here today, your very existence, is a miracle of unimaginable significance. The odds against you being here are too great to attribute to randomness and chance. It's almost like your life was fated to be. How does that make you feel? When I meditate on all of this, when I try to grasp these astronomical odds and all of the moments that had to happen exactly as they did in order for us to be here today, my friends, I'm consumed by wonder and awe. And quite frankly, those words are too flimsy to really describe how I feel. When I contemplate all of this, I become very, very small. And at the same time, I become expansive, humbled, and grateful for the chance to experience the strangeness and beauty of this universe, the companionship of friends who were fated to be. In light of this, the hardships and inconveniences pale in the blazing light of realization. The pandemic shrinks, all concerns and problems dissolve, and I find myself repeating the words over and over again. Thank you. Thank you.